And you did say we've got a senior coach in the box from Moonee Valley, unbeaten, Peter Gleisner, so far through 3 games of the season. Firstly, congratulations on the run you're on, and welcome to EDFL Radio.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, we've had a good start, and yeah, we're building, and hopefully we get some. Yeah, we have a win tonight or this afternoon, whatever it is, and yeah, from there we can take the season on.
Now, the reason you're here with us this afternoon is it's a 5 o'clock start over at Keilor Park this evening, taking on Keilor Park in Strathmore Community Bank Division 2. How do you prepare for a twilight game like this, especially at Division 2 level where so many guys would have only ever known the 2 p.m. starts on a Saturday? I mean, was this any different to how you would normally do it, or is it just a matter of making sure the boys turn up a couple of hours later than they usually would?
Yeah, that's all it is. The games go back that time, so we put this requirement time back. That's when they get there and they start preparing from there. Otherwise, yeah, they're just thinking about the game way too long.
I guess the reason I ask is, I mean, we were speaking to Pascoe, Vale in pre-game, and they spoke about how disruptive playing on Sunday was last week and the demands of trying to get their list to get a Sunday off, and there were some players they couldn't pick because of that. But twilight, I mean, the main thing you've got to prepare for is maybe a turn in the weather or adjusting to playing under lights, but it shouldn't be that difficult even at Division 2 level, I assume.
Oh, no, we train at that time. That's basically when you're training, you're using yellow balls at training. So, yeah, it's like another training session and playing at the time you train. So maybe it could be a benefit.
Must be happy with the start to the year, mate. All the talk, I don't know how much you care about the outside noise and perhaps what we say on TV and whatnot, but all the talk about Hadfield and Coburg districts and Roxy, we may have forgotten about Moonee Valley a little bit. How's that been received within the club?
I'm happy that everyone's forgotten about us and leave us where we are. You know, we had a great win last week. So, yeah, players need to earn respect. They never made finals last year, so that's what it's about, earning respect and coming up. And if we happen to make finals, which is the plan, you know, that's goal number 1 anyway.
How did you assess Roxburgh Park as an opponent last week? Because you would have seen the scoreline against Coburg Districts where they beat them 13 goals to 2. They came in dominant form and seemingly on top of their game, and you guys have not just beaten them but led start to finish for most of the day. So what was your read on their form, and what did you guys do in order to best them on the day?
We had a couple of plans in place. I was lucky I watched a lot of Division 2 last year, so I actually knew a lot of their players from Roxburgh Park and had a plan in place, and it's great when a plan comes together, I suppose, that yeah, the players were able to execute what we wanted to happen, and it, yeah, we had a win. But it wasn't that far last year. The games all last year were super close, and I reckon they should have knocked them off a couple of times. At Moonee Valley, should have beaten Roxburgh Park a couple of times.
Funny you say that. We talked up Moonee Valley all 3 times they played Roxy last year, and Roxburgh Park got them in a close one on each occasion. And so this time around we said, well, that's enough. We're going to tip Roxburgh Park this time. And sure enough, you guys got the job done. I wanted to ask about Braden Padmore. He's been a player who's had a horrible run of luck. He was great in last year's under-18 grand final, has been great in the senior footy that he's played, but he's also had his jaw broken twice in the last year. I mean, he's such a talent. I mean, how great was it to have him back in the team, not just back in the team, but stepping in, getting straight into the best and kicking 3 goals last weekend?
He is a super talent. He's, yeah, really happy to have him still at Moonee Valley and playing the football he does. He's, yeah, excellent. And he had a couple of issues that we had with him pre-season and whatever, so he started in the 18s and he took it on the chin and he stepped up, and yeah, he's really, and it proved on last weekend he was able to step up to senior football again. So,
and after losing Musti Hamoud to Premier Division to West Coburg, I know that he was at a number of clubs in pre-season but ended up at West Coburg. Who is stepping up to sort of take the mantle as your team leaders this season, and who are some of the guys that are bearing the burden of responsibility of being, you know, the guys in the dressing room that everyone looks to, not just to set an example but also to perform on the weekend?
We probably have a couple now. Were skippers last year in Sam O'Brien and Ned Wilson. Yeah, they're not that old, but they seem more mature on the ground than what their ages are. So they're great, and they look at them, and we've got a bloke down backs, Jason Slater, who really leads by example, and his talk and the rest of it really keeps the young blokes in order.
Is the realistic expectation to go all the way this year? Is that a realistic chance for your boys?
To go all the way, we just want to make sure we improve. So the improvement from last year is to make finals, and once you're in the finals, then you reassess. We'll have a look at that once finals is. Looking to go all the way is just, yeah, dare to dream, I suppose. But, you know, at the moment, we've got to make sure we can consistently play at the level we did last week in, week out.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because on paper, I reckon you guys have probably the most quality. You've got some of the best players in the division. It's just a matter of obviously getting it all together, having a disappointing year last year. So the belief in the boys at the moment in what they can achieve, obviously, it's about building confidence as the season goes on, and obviously claiming a few scalps along the way.
That's it, yeah, building confidence. And it's a very young list, so you're going to expect inconsistencies in what they do on the ground. So as long as we can get them to a more consistent level, the results will start to look after themselves, and hopefully, where you're going, that's a pipe dream at the end of the year, of course.
You talk about the preparation you put into Roxburgh Park last week. What about Keilor Park later tonight? Fab Pellizzeri is the top goal kicker in the division, I understand, playing as a midfielder. Sam Sarkis has gone in as one of the best players in the comp as well. These are two guys who, frankly, should be going the other way up to Premier, not back the other way down to Division 2, but they've found a level that they want to play at. How much time and preparation goes into preparing for them and preparing for Keilor Park on the whole, and how much time goes into preparing your team just on a general game plan, regardless of who you line up against at the weekend?
Oh, there's plenty of hours we put into that, and plenty of chat and talk and whatever. Yeah, we got plans in place for both of those blokes and what we do from there. But yeah, it's plenty of hours. I don't know if it's the same as what the A grade guys are putting in, but yeah, with a couple of assistants, we talk quite often and make sure that preparation has to happen. Yeah.
How are the 18s and juniors going this year? Obviously, it's been a good couple of years for your boys. You've had a few draftees as well. How's it looking so far in 2015?
Yeah, the 18s were slow to get up and going, but they're now starting to get sides together. So, and they had a great win last week as well. So, and that was with taking Braden out of their side. So they lost their best player to the seniors, and they still had a great win come from behind against Roxburgh Park. So it's looking forward. And the junior program down there is they put an enormous amount of effort into it to make sure that they keep getting kids coming through, and it's a tough area, I think, to keep those kids coming through, and yeah, they do a mountain of work.
And we saw it in 2013 where Charlie Denaro, the coach in that year, didn't get access to the 16s players until they were knocked out of the finals in the 16s, and he threw a couple of them into the seniors, and they were capable of playing Division 2 senior footy straight away. Do you have the same tug of war this season, or as the senior coach, are you able to say if there's someone in the under 16s and he's good enough for senior footy, I can pick him? Or is it still a balancing act to make sure that you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you can field a 16s team, you can field an 18s team, rather than simply feeding players up to the seniors at your request?
Yeah, well, I haven't gone down, haven't needed to go down that path yet, but I have a good rapport with Lee Newman, the 16s coach. Scruffy and I played footy against each other back in the day, so yeah, we get on quite well, and the 16s were down training with us pre-season. So yeah, I haven't gone down that path, but if I need to, it'll just be a conversation, I think.
Oh, good. Well, we wish you all the best for the rest of the season. Moonee Valley unbeaten through 3 games, and anyone listening who wants to head out to Keilor Park tonight, it's a 5 p.m. start. Keilor Park taking on Moonee Valley, and any under 18s eligible players, you've got to be under 18 and a half this season. Moonee Valley are still looking for players. Jump on the EDFL website. There is a story up there with the contact details for the coaches. Get in touch with them during the week if you do want to play this season. But Peter Gleisner, thanks for joining us on EDFL Radio, and good luck this evening.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time, fellas.
6 p.m. start out at Leydin Reserve tonight under the lights at Tullamarine, and their coach Anthony Leydin has joined us on the line. Anthony, thanks for joining us on Northwest FM Football, and obviously an exciting night for Tullamarine, coming off a win and going into a night game at your home ground.
Yeah, definitely, Taylor. Not sure what to expect. Obviously, the lights should hold up. We had a practice match throughout pre-season under those conditions, so hopefully we're able to adapt and put our best foot forward.
Now, I must admit, I got Tulla pretty wrong in pre-season. I saw the names that went out, I saw the names that came in, and I thought that there would be a significant drop-off, but you've come out and beaten the prelim finalist from last year, Taylor's Lakes. You pushed Craigieburn all the way in round 2, which was your first game of the season. So you must feel pretty good about how the team has started the season, given the upheaval that the squad went through in the off-season.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was an upheaval, and I think everyone was within their rights to sort of speculate as to where that left Tullamarine and what their prospects were for 2015. But I guess when you're in that situation, you just put your head down, and probably only just coming up for air now, and doing as much as you can for as long as you can to give your club the best chance of being competitive.
Anthony, Adem, Saricaoglu here, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Really glad you could join us today. Look, Essendon for Division 1 is so even. It's unbelievable, and obviously when pre-season we are picking relegation and premierships, it's that close that we could have picked anyone basically. But obviously you must be pleased that you've been able to show some good form so far this year. Have you had any decent think about what is a reasonable expectation for Tulla come the end of the year? I know it's a long way ahead and coaches don't like to think that far ahead, but I know you obviously want to avoid relegation, but are you aiming for a top 4 finish, or is it just trying to build what you've got given that you've had to implement so many changes on the list?
Yeah, I mean, look, we certainly have some expectations internally, but that probably has less to do with wins and losses and more to do about just, I guess, creating a professional environment and laying the foundations and getting some good young players in and backing ourselves in to develop them to make them good senior footballers. Average age of Tullamarine has probably gone from, as a guess, 28, 29 down to about 22 or 23. So that in itself is a big plus for us, and not having under 18s and 16s coming through, we thought it necessary to get some young talent in and, like I say, back them in and back ourselves in to develop them and make them better footballers and build our future around that new group coming through, which, as I say, we're pretty happy with what we've got. It's not to say we're not done with yet, and we'll continue to try and bring new players into the club to give Tullamarine every chance of being successful this year and next.
And the two names that stood out the most from those outs in the off-season were the league-leading goal kickers who tied with each other, John Kent and Daniel Mangan, with 50 goals each. And Ryan Pretty has come in. I'm familiar with a little bit of his football from Sunbury Kangaroos back when I used to cover the Riddle League in the newspaper world, but I hadn't seen him for a couple of seasons, and he's come in and kicked a couple of bags. Is he the main spearhead in that forward line, or are you actually building it around someone else and he's just been the one that's been hitting the scoreboard?
Well, we like to have a good spread of goal kickers. We don't believe we're a high-scoring team as such. We prefer to try and limit the opposition to a score which we think we can get over the top of. I think putting all your eggs in one basket and having a high dependence on one or two key forwards is a recipe for disaster. And we're playing different players in and out of the forward line. It probably hasn't settled down the way we'd have liked just at the minute with different players coming into the team and going out for different reasons. But look, definitely the plan is to have a good even spread and not be too overly dependent on any one or two in particular. And to date, we've probably done that. But certainly we may look to settle one or two down into some sort of key positions over the next coming weeks.
And how does Pretty look at this level? Like, is he the sort of... You were coaching in Premier as an assistant at Strathmore last year. Is he a Premier calibre player that's playing in a Div 1 team, or is he someone that's sort of perfectly suited to Division 1?
Well, look, the thing you need to bear in mind is Ryan's only 20 years of age, so he's still learning the game. There's a lot of upside to what he brings to the table already. His work rate and his attitude and his contribution thus far has been outstanding, and he shows probably maturity beyond his years, and he's got a really good head on his shoulders, and he's a real thinker, and he really applies himself and sets high standards for himself. So that in its own is going to keep him in good stead. And to answer your question, I have no doubt in my mind in a year or two's time that absolutely he'd be a ready-made Premier Division player, be it in forward line or elsewhere.
Anthony, have you prepared your boys for an extremely fierce battle tonight? Perhaps you're going to face a pretty angry Glen Roy side that are a bit stiff to be 0-3.
Oh, look, there's no doubt this week is going to have its challenges, as it does every week, given the tightness of Division 1 football. If you look at Glen Roy's performances, they could have quite easily been 3-0. So if you think you're going into this game against a 0-3 team who's had winning chances against three quality teams in the first three rounds, well, you're going to be setting yourself up for a bit of a fall from grace. Having said that, we know what we bring to the table, and if we can deliver in that regard to previous weeks, well, we think we're in with a good chance. But certainly, as I say, you're right, we're absolutely expecting a fierce tussle, and it probably won't be decided till late in the game.
And without spoiling it for our audience, we'll let them know we're heading out to Tullamarine for EDFL Web TV this coming week, because there is a very significant milestone impending for the club. Justin Marcy playing his 300th game for the team, but I understand he got injured late in pre-season, and that 300th game has taken a little bit longer to hit the park than expected. Is he picked tonight, or does he have to bide his time for another week?
Well, no, he's not picked for tonight, and it may not be necessarily in a week's time either. He was injured in the last practice match, and he's a very important player to us, and it's important we bring him along slowly, and he'll tell us when he's ready to go, whether that's next week or the week after, time will tell, but we know he wants to play, but like I say, we'll delay that decision right up until we're 100% confident that he's got the capability of playing for 120 minutes.
And last time you were down in the old B grade with West Meadows, Anthony, it was the a 16-team comp. It was a league where you could look at the fixture and you know you'd have a few easy games coming up if you just bided your time and got through the tough ones. Now it's an 8-team league, or 9-team I should say. Dog eat dog every week, no easy games and very difficult. Having been up in Premier for a couple of seasons with Strathmore, now you're back down to that next level of footy. How have you found the competition so far, whether it's scouting the opposition teams or just coaching your own? What's changed since you were last there in 2011?
I certainly think the standard of Division 1 football has gone up a notch or two, and you would expect that with the number of quality footballers coming into the division. The fact that it is so tight and it is competitive and there's no easy game, that actually suits our young list quite well. I mean, we want to be tested and we want to be challenged, and we want to see how our personnel and our structures and our systems stand up under those sort of pressure situations. And we think that's going to fast-track our development much quicker than necessarily having a few games where you think the outcome is a foregone conclusion. And, certainly that's not the case at all in Division 1 for this year.
Well, Anthony, it's been a very interesting start to the season for Tullamarine. I think we'll learn a lot about Glenroy and a lot about your team later tonight. 6 p.m. start out at Leydin, so plenty of fans around the EDFL that are at a different game might well come along and catch the second half of that match out at Tulla. Hopefully there's a big crowd and it is a successful time slot for the club. I wish you all the best and good luck for tonight's game and the rest of the season ahead.
Okay, thanks guys. Same to you. Bye.
We just concentrated on the basics and must have got them right. So.
Did you expect this kind of result coming into the game?
No, I think a few of the boys were pretty nervous. I think it was a pretty similar feeling to Avondale round 1. We're a bit nervous and see them as a benchmark and just happy to get the win and hopefully we keep up what we're doing because we're going okay at the moment. But just can't get ahead of ourselves and do the basics right, we'll be right.
How do you feel about the rest of the season now?
Look, we've been excited since pre-season. We know we've got a bit of talent, but we've got to do the right things. Just have to play footy the basic way, and if we keep sticking to our structures and doing what we can control, we know we'll give it have an okay year. So, looking forward to it.
Congratulations on the performance today. How good was that?
Oh, look, it was fantastic. An all-round effort. It was hard to pick best players, and that from a coaching point of view, that's exactly what you want. And we kicked a lot of points there, which I thought could get us into trouble. But I don't know if we doubled the scoring shots, but it showed the boys' intent was there all day, and the way they finished off in the last quarter, I was very proud of them.
34 scoring shots to 15, in fact, Dave. And you mentioned it was difficult to pick the best players. It was a real complete performance, wasn't it?
It really was. And that's what we asked to really focus on winning contested football, and we thought we could beat them on the outside with some of our explosive midfielders. And once they did get loose, even though it took a while, Strathmore certainly congested the game against the win. It was a good all-round effort, no doubt.
I want to ask you about something structurally from the game. We saw Matt King come onto the ground in a fascinating role for us commentators. He sort of loitered on this wing, and he seemingly was well away from the play. What's his role as a young fella coming into the side? Yeah,
look, he's played different roles each week through the wing and through the mid, and we're just trying to make him drag one of their defenders out because we lacked a bit of height down there today, so we thought Strathmore was very tall, so we didn't want to get our smaller forwards spoilt, so we're trying to drag them out and use Matt King out here to try and drag that opponent out because we suffered from that last week and we didn't want that to happen again.
In the post-match interview with Ben Warren, he mentioned the physicality that was that a focus going into the match beforehand? Oh, absolutely. That was where we thought we could really win the game, and blokes like Justin Taylor and Craig Robbins, the way they throw themselves onto the football, and I think there's many around that will challenge them with that, so that they're very tough and hard at the footy, so it was great. When we were out here last year, early in the season around this time, it was an emotional, close win against Essendon due to Stars. Club survival seemed to be on the line with relegation.
How has the change of mentality sat with you? You've gone through the tough times. What's it like now to be in a totally different mindset where you're thinking about top 4 and qualifying for the finals rather than survival in the division?
Yeah, look, it is quite weird. I mean, but look, no one's won grand finals or premierships in April or May. We know there's a long way to go, but from a coaching point, to see us challenge these top teams, it's a weird feeling because I've always been a very defensive mindset coach in this Premier League because we haven't been good enough. But guys like Ben Ross, Ben Warren, Daniel Harris, and Adem Contessa's off-field stuff has really helped us build some belief into the team, which has made it a lot easier for the team and brought those younger players through.
Dave, it's an interesting ground here at Rayburn. I sort of feel like the breeze played a part, and of course 13-21 there was a bit of inaccuracy. I thought you guys really played the ground really well, and the transition is good. Was that something that you've worked on during the off-season? Obviously with Ben Ross off half back, the transition from the back line to the forward line today just seemed to work really well.
Yeah, I think that, you know, every coach or every team wants the midfield to run 8 or 10 deep, and we've never been able to do that. Now we have got a midfield that's strong that can do that, so it gives us that luxury and rebound off having rebounding half-back flankers. It gives us an opportunity to really open the game up when it's required, and it was evident again today.
You're still trusting some youngsters, as every Premier team has to do from time to time. Tell us a little bit about King, about Raji, about some of the other players that have been here and aren't new faces that are earning their spot in this best 22. Yeah,
well, Matthew Holland and Matthew King, they're both 17-year-old kids. Raji's just 18. So our bench was 18-year-old and below today. Which is great, but we need to blood them kids. We need to make sure they learn and understand the game and get amongst it. I mean, we've got a lot of injuries at the moment too, so it was great to get them into the game with some. Most of our key position backs didn't play today, so that's exciting for them to get a game and still have a good win without those players in the team. So you spoke of those injuries. Who are we talking about to come back in? Can the side get even better? It can. Our 4 key defenders, you've got TK, Piatti, we've got Gareth Donald, who did his quad against Keeler last week. We've got Neil Glowry, who fractured his foot in pre-season. We've got Jesse Wells, just had an operation. He'll come back in the second half of the year. So they're 4, 6'3", 6'5" guys that we need, and they'll be great additions second half of the season. And why did TK miss today? Because he was very good against Keeler. Yeah, he was out injured. He hurt himself against Keeler, and he just didn't get up today. So Anthony Lewis is another one that we should get back next week. Our wingman, who was second best in Ferris last year. So, geez, hard to drop 5 from today. Good luck, Dave. Yeah, no, well, yeah. Look, injuries happen, and you never know, but it's great to have some depth. And Vez Premier just precautionary there in the last quarter. Yeah, just a bit tight, so we didn't want to risk it. Just he sort of carried a little bit into the third quarter, and we didn't want to risk it, so we get him off and get him right. You love this club, big crowd, big expectations, passionate fan base. Yeah. Are you having fun, or is this actually even more stressful than it was in the past? No, look, I definitely love winning. I mean, there's nothing better, and as you said before, Tao, it's a weird feeling for me because this has been a ground-up work. Building the club into Premier League and then building him into this position. It's taken 5 years of really hard work, and it's a weird feeling. And I still get nervous even when we're 4 or 5 goals up. It's not. I'm unfamiliar with feeling that way. Well, we're looking forward to games against the likes of Aberfeldy and Greenvale because after today, you guys have sent a real message to the rest of the league. Thanks for joining us on EDFL Radio, and good luck for the rest of the season. No worries. Thanks, guys. And that's Dave Morgan, the Pascoe Vale coach, with quite an attentive audience here as well watching on. And we're going to bring in our Sportsmoves player of the day now because he's had 2 sensational games on our broadcasts in the last couple of weeks. And one of the marquee recruits to the league this season, Ben Ross, joins us here on EDFL Radio. Thanks for joining us and congratulations on your performance today, Ben. On a winning streak, always a nice feeling, but today was the reigning Premier and had to go out and make a bit of a statement. How good was that?
Yeah, look, we've had a really good start to the year. We've had a couple of easy wins to start the season, but these last 2 weeks against Keilor and now the reigning Premier in Strathmore, we knew this was going to be a real test early in the season anyway, and we really set ourselves for it. To win the contested ball, and the boys have really responded well, and to have a good win today was great.
How important is it to turn names on paper into performance? Because we thought this team was going to take a while to gel. We thought you'd be charging home like a freight train in the back half of the season, and yet here you are unbeaten, having beaten a couple of finalists and the reigning Premier already through the opening rounds of the season. So what has actually been the acclimatisation process to bring all these new faces together, not just coming from VFL or AFL, but other leagues too?
Yeah, it was always going to be a bit of an unknown, bringing in so many new guys, but we've just gelled like fantastically. Everyone's been to training, both nights of the week, and we just complement each other really well. So yeah, it's just the boys are just loving it. We're just enjoying playing footy, and we got along as best mates already, which is great.
Ben, congratulations. You mentioned contested ball. It seems like that was a focus. Both yourself and Ben Warren and Dave Morgan all mentioned contested ball, but I really like the uncontested ball and just the delivery today. Like there was a few times there where it's almost undefendable. So obviously, do you think that the contested ball sets you up to play good uncontested footy, or vice versa?
No, look, we know that we've got some good outside players. In Michael, Ross, Sam Caruso, Vinny Randallo, Paddy Premier, to break the lines. We've got plenty of them, but we know they're not going to get it unless you win the contested ball. And coming up against a side like Strathmore today, who've got some really hard bodies around the ball, we knew if we could break 50-50 with them, we felt like we might be able to get them on the outside. And it turned out that way in the end, but it was a really hard battle for us early.
Who are the leaders in this group? Like, looking from the outside in, it looks like Daniel Harris is maybe the one that naturally takes the ascendancy, but with so many new faces, who is actually the leader in the dressing room and the guy that sort of has that natural, alpha male instinct to lead the rest of the group?
Yeah, Harrow's great. He's been around, obviously, quite a while and a few years in this league now. A very veteran senior head on him. So he's great for us. Vinny Randallo, who was obviously captain at Pascoe Vale a few years ago, has come back now and shows great leadership as well. But the good thing is we've got leaders across the whole board. Ben Warren forward, Lockie Raven, the list goes on. Through the midfield, like I said, Harrow, Gav Urquhart. We're pretty deep with our leadership. Our average age is quite, it's jumped up a lot on what Pascoe Vale's had in the last few years.
And for you personally, how is the body? How does pre-season compare coming back to suburban footy out of the AFL system? Obviously, you've got to make your own adjustments to the workload that you put in, but how have you found that transition?
Yeah, it's a lot different. I actually had a few niggles in the pre-season, so unfortunately I didn't get to do a lot of the training. So that was a bit of an adjustment in itself. But yeah, look, it's definitely different, but it's a lot less pressure. Good to come down and just have a lot of fun with the guys 2 nights a week and put in the hard work. And the good thing is the guys are really buying in and want to be successful. We know that's how you'll have fun at a local footy club. So yeah, so far so good. Well,
thanks so much for joining us, Ben, our Sportsmoves Player of the Day. You'll have a hoodie come out to training for you sometime later in the season. Don't sweat on it, but congratulations on your performance and the team's performance, and we look forward to seeing you play again later in the season.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you to Ben Ross, our Sportsmoves Player of the Day, and we're going to welcome in the Strathmore coach now, Craig Clinnick, who's been good enough to join us off the back of a tough defeat, but always good with his time, win, lose or draw. Craig, thanks for joining us. What went wrong today, and are there any positives you can take out of this afternoon's performance?
What went wrong today? Not a lot went right. Look, early I thought we were good. I thought early we got them on the inside. I thought we got our hands on the ball first. I mean, the clearance numbers and the first hands from stoppage reflected that we were doing what we wanted to do, particularly on the inside. From a outside viewpoint, I thought early we had a good balance, and I thought we had guys in good starting positions. As the game unfolded, probably should have made more of our opportunities, to be fair, too, in the first half. I thought we had better opportunities than we necessarily executed, and probably didn't put enough if any scoreboard pressure on Pascoe. Third quarter, they really started to get on top, and they probably could have hurt us on the scoreboard and didn't. Then the last quarter, look, we changed it up a little bit in terms of what we were trying to do. We're trying to get plenty of space, ideally between the arcs, opposed to space forward. And look, Pascoe reacted well. They won the one-on-ones. Look, they're deserving winners, and they were too good for us today.
How did your planning compare to the reality of actually playing them? Like, did they actually look how you expected, or were there things today that you saw that you hadn't been able to anticipate in the build-up?
I don't anticipate a side to start to centre advance with 8 forwards, so that was, I thought, pretty creative, a bit risky, but I guess when you're 4 or 5 goals up, you can probably start 8 forwards. Look, the way they moved the ball is predictable. The way they moved the ball against Keeler, the way they moved the ball this week against us was from my viewpoint, what I expected. I thought You know, Caruso on the outside was dangerous. We probably didn't shut him down early enough. I thought Ross was well held early, but then sort of broke and got ball, you know, on the outside through the corridor. I was probably more worried about him on the inside. I thought Elliott did a reasonable job on Warren. I mean, I know he kicked a few goals, but I thought early, in particular in the one-on-ones, he executed exactly how we wanted to execute. You know, they liked to open up the space through the funnel into Warren. I thought Stapleton sagged well in terms of competing, getting across, and I thought Elliott did a good job on him. And I thought our skipper Dale May battled bravely today, competed really hard. But look, I wasn't surprised by anything. They played really, really well and deserved the win.
Craig, all the guys that we spoke to from Pascoe Vale said that they set the win up through the contested ball, but personally I thought that they set the win up through their uncontested ball use. Where does the run come from you? Looking down the list, Yakabuchi I thought was really quiet today. Who are the outside runners that are going to give you that run, say next week, you know, when it does go your way?
Oh, look, I don't know if you've seen Sam Leach or if you've seen Matthew Knight or you've seen Alex Griner. They're pretty quick in terms of outside. Mitch Purcell's very quick on the outside. You know, across half-back, we were a bit flat-footed today. We probably didn't have a lot of release run from half-back with any real speed. And we missed Heppel there, without a doubt. But you're right. I mean, they didn't get us on the inside today. They absolutely got us outside. And that took some time for them to get that. But once they got that, we really couldn't get that outside. We couldn't even get a contest on the outside, to be fair. If we didn't win on the inside, I thought we battled and competed really well. Once they got on the outside, we were caught out of position, flat-footed, and they had momentum, which really caught us off guard, quite between the arcs a number of times.
I'll cop that with the outside run, and I'll probably add Horn to that list as well. I thought he was reasonable today in the second half. What about the kick-ins? It seemed like it was a very structured play. Arrowsmith to himself, and then down the far wing there. Is that a set play going into the game, or is that something that is almost a week-to-week thing?
As a set play today, they use their centre-half back, centre-half forward and ruckman really well on opposition kick-ins. So they basically cover outside corridor and outside. So if you're going to kick to a contest, they're going to have height across you right across the arc. So the philosophy was, if we could get the space that they tend to give you up close to the goal kicker, if we could get that space, kick to himself, take that space, clear that line, we felt we'd have good run over the top of that sort of last wall, let's call it, or the third line of the zone. Pretty tough into the Breeze to do that today, because the Breeze obviously blown really hard into that pocket. And I don't think we exited from the back 50 this side of the ground well enough. I thought we did it, but we just didn't kick the ball well enough to really get our player to receive and run. Whenever we kicked to a player, it was to a contest, or we kicked to a player who had to stop. And when you come out this side of the ground against a team like Pascoe that protect this side so well, the player's got to be moving when he receives the ball, so he's got momentum and he can actually break the line. So I don't think we did that well today coming out of the back half.
Callum Wilson, what was his reason for missing?
Callum hasn't played since round 2. He played the Good Friday game against Keilor, and he played against Marby. He had surgery the day after the Marby game, and he'll be back. He would play. If we played next week, he'd play, so he'll be back the week after.
What's he missed with?
Some sort of flu, I don't know. I'm not too sure, but he's had a bit of surgery and he'll be fine. He'll be right.
And also, Grimer's coming back from suspension just a couple more weeks. So, I mean, one reason we're not getting carried away with today is we know that you've got some aces up the sleeve there, but, I mean, how far off your best 22 do you think your team is at the moment?
Oh, look, the best 22 played today. Let's be frank, you've only got the players that are available to you. You know, I think we've been a little bit undermanned most of the season, but it's not a line for a win or a loss. It's a line for it is what it is. We've got some guys coming through the twos who got form. You know, Luke Kennedy kicked 10 today in the reserves, who has been a real promising kid for us. Who's played now. He played all the practice matches in the seniors. He's now played 4 in the reserves. He's come off a 10 today, so he puts a bit of pressure on the forwards. We had Jesse Cogliano, who we got released late from Coburg. He played through the twos today. We had Scotty Willis playing the twos today, who's come across from Aberfeldy, who plays in the Northern Blues. So there's 3 guys there that should put pressure on next week, or next game I should say. Toddy will come back. Daniel Jones will be back second half of the year. We'd expect Taggaboo to play next game. So look, we're disappointing not to win today. Paco deserved the win. There is absolutely no excuse for personnel missing today. The team we put on the park was good enough to win the game.
And as far as where you see Pascoe Vale, how do they compare to other strong teams, that you've coached against, whether it was at Marby or here at Strathmore? Where do you rate them compared to the Greenvales and the Aberfeldies of this year or years past that you may have gone head-to-head with? I mean, are they as impressive? Do they look like a team that's going to set some sort of mark for you guys to chase, or do you feel as though things are still sorting themselves out at this time of the year?
Look, it's early, it's kind of round 4. They've started well. I mean, what are they, 4 zip? I mean, you can't. People say, it depends who you played. It's irrelevant who you played. You've got to play everyone twice. They've started really well. They deserve to be top of the ladder. They obviously went hard against a couple of sides, They went hard against Avondale Heights and really put offensive pressure on. I felt today that we were always going to keep them under 12 goals is what my thoughts were. I think they finished with 13, admittedly 13-20 or 13-18, whatever. They didn't kick well for goal. But offensively, we just didn't hurt them enough today. We had enough opportunities inside forward 50 to kick more goals. I'm not necessarily saying to win, but to kick more goals. We had enough supply and enough entries. They weren't great entries. We were forced to shoot from goal from out wide a couple of times. How do I rate Pascoe Vale? They've done nothing wrong. They're top of the ladder. Deserve to be there. How do I rate them against other clubs of the past? I think it's too early to tell, to be fair. I don't want to make any rash statements. They've got the good mix and the good combination you need to go deep into a season. They may be under a little bit of pressure with extra talls forward. I think they don't have sort of tall defenders. They have medium tall defenders, but not any big-bodied, tall sort of defenders. When you've got a man up a Grimer, a Callum Wilson, a Matt Little, and an Adam Winter, it's a different ballgame to just have an Adam Winter and sort of Matty Little today. But they kept a state goal, so people may say that opinion is not sound, but that's my opinion.
Dave, one more before we say goodbye to Craig.
I think you've answered most of the questions. I guess, adding to that height. Do you think that height was an issue for you today? Do you think that if you had more height in the side, that it would have been a different story?
Look, I ummed and ahed Thursday night. Do we go with an extra ruckman, or do we compete with Potter, Winter, and Sakura? Excuse me. And look, the decision Thursday night at match committee was let's get the extra 2 midfielders into the side. Let's bring Horn back, his first game today. Let's get Knight back, his first game since Keeler Good Friday. So the view was we'd go with extra mids. I thought we could probably back deeper than them through the middle. They don't run as many through the inside mids as, say, we do. But looking at it in reflection, it would have been handy to have the extra tall to be able to, when we drove the ball long, to be able to take that contested mark, which I think we missed a little bit today. Wintz ran under the ball a bit. He was used a bit higher than I wanted to use him, a bit deeper, sort of when we went with the wind. But, in hindsight, we'll be taller next time we play him, that I guarantee. But we've got a bit of work to do on our outside midfield work.
Well, good luck for the rest of the season. Thank you for being so generous with your time. We love talking footy with you, Craig, because you always give us such a great insight into how Strathmore works. And
one of the best footy minds. He's the best.
Good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much, guys. You do a good job, and wish you guys good luck too. Thank you.
Craig Clinnick, the Strathmore coach, joining us in the box.